Today, is that the sounds of antennas I hear being put up and contacts being made? Yep, you guessed it. We're talking about ARL Field Day next on Live Free and Ham. All right. Hello and welcome to Live Free and Ham, a podcast. This is our bi-weekly show, and during it we discuss ham radio topics, New Hampshire, New England, and beyond. So whether you're a regular listener or first-time guest, we are excited to have you here and appreciate your support and appreciate you guys tuning in for tonight's episode. So let's get into it. I'm your host, Eric, call sign N1JUR, and I'm with my co-host this evening. Go ahead.
Todd, W1STJ, and it looks like it's just me and you tonight, Eric.
Yep. Yeah. Paul is got a little under the weather here, and so he bowed out, but we wish him well, and hopefully he recovers. And I'm sure he'll be back for another round there. But outside of that, it's just us two, the amigos here, and we're running the show, so everything goes, I guess. So before we kind of get into our topic, let's catch up on a few things. Obviously, we always keep mentioning our storefront, and we love to because it's always one of our fun things. You can always head over there, livefreeandham.com/shop. Check out all our merch. We're adding new stuff to the store. I'm actually in the midst of creating a couple new shirts. This one, the one that we mentioned probably prior, that's coming out soon, will be Todd's favorite one called Ham Radio Saved or Found Me. And I've got another one called Send QSLs after the old typical send me nudes kind of photo. So we're gonna we're gonna play on words with a couple of those. So we're gonna have some fun with this stuff. And if you're always interested in contributing and you got a great shirt idea, we just like HRCC, we love to hear it. Send it our way, and we'll make sure.
This isn't one of our shirts, but
No,
it's
but
okay.
it's still
You don't like radio. Let's see.
It's kind of a smart people thing.
Yeah.
That it is. So, but as always, we like to thank everybody who has purchased a shirt. So whether you got a classic tees or you bought one of our specialty shirts or our typical hats that we always catch us wearing here on the podcast, we appreciate you guys supporting the show. And we also have a new feature that we want to make you guys aware of. We know obviously some of the options in leaving reviews are a little challenging, especially if you're not an Apple user or you just can't get over there to be able to go through the rigmarole to leave a review. We've got a simple feature now. It's called send us a review via SMS. So if you head over to either our website and in any one of our descriptions with any one of our podcast episodes and on our YouTube channel, there is a link that you can click to review an SMS, and it's as simple as just basically clicking the link on your cell phone or a smartphone and leaving us a review. And if you do, we will make sure we will definitely read it in the next show. So, we'd love to hear from you. We want to see how we're doing. And we always appreciate the feedback. So this is hopefully one way that you guys can connect back up with us and, be part of the show. And as always, we are just, this episode will air right about a week and a half or so before Field Day. So like we mentioned, we are going to be talking a little about Field Day. And coming up, obviously, in Field Day, we will be doing some live stream stuff. So this is our live stream month. We are going to have a couple of guests on, but more so just coming up, although you might have missed it at this point. But hopefully you are subscribed. On the 5th of June, we are going to be celebrating our 1-year anniversary. Woohoo! Which is awesome.
1 year already. Wow.
1 year. It's crazy. And we're already 30, almost 40 episodes in, and almost close to 3,500 downloads. So we appreciate every one of those downloads and everyone who's been part of listening to Live Free and Ham. So, you make sure you want to be in on those shenanigans, as they say. Feel free, make sure you're part of that. And we will also, like I said, be doing live streaming from Field Day as well. We are all probably going to be attending our local club Field Day. So if you, are around, make sure you pay attention Friday, Saturday, and throughout the Field Day weekend. We will be making sure that we get on live stream and, have some fun with that as well. And because our VE Quizmaster is obviously unavailable, we are going to forgo this week's episodes on getting Todd his extra. So we apologize if that's a segment you like yourselves and look forward to every episode. We will make sure we pick it back up next episode and go from there. But our favorite thing that we just have going on, which is another episode or another segment we have here.
Doing good.
Good.
Doing
Good.
good.
You do. That's good.
You good? You good?
You're doing good.
Absolutely, I do. Good. Good.
Doing good, Bob. Doing real good.
Right now, my only outlet is my ham radio.
That is true. Ham radio is our only outlet. Well, not really, but it's one of many. Well, we want to start a new segment where we take kind of a different spin here. We all felt that, when you ask about joining or you ask about, ham radio and joining a club, you get 55 different reasons why you shouldn't join one or who not to join. So we're going to take a different approach and showcase the good, that are clubs that are doing in your area. So we are starting a segment here, and we have one that we want to share with you this week. It happens to be our own club, but if you are doing something great and either promoting your club or getting people more interested in an activity or whatever, we want to hear about it. So if you get a moment, and you want to share that with us, you can head over to your email account or our website and use the comment form there, or you can email us at livefreeandham@gmail.com and let us know what your club's doing. But for this episode, I am going to share just a little segment that, we are doing in our club to showcase some of the good that's happening. And this one is one of our dear friends, Tim, KC1QDK. He is a CW, we'll say master or working towards his master as a CW person. And he has been very vigilant in obviously staying the course and learning to practice. But at the same time, he is also dragged in, or I should say, encouraged others to come in. And he's created a thing in our club called Code Buddies. And every week he is diligently over sending out notices and getting people involved. And he's using, we'll say ham radio adjacent kind of style of CW training. Instead of using the airwaves, he wants everybody to obviously be able to get in there and have a shot at it. So he's using a tool called V-Band, and he is having a great success at it. He's seeing a lot of people come in. Some are lurking, some are just hanging out and just, getting a feel for it. But there are people that he's had both here locally in our club and in our area and, even outside the area that are just hearing about it. And they're all, supporting him and helping out. And they're all learning how to be more CW proficient. So this is a perfect example of what we're talking about when we want to say, doing good in your club. So we want to encourage you. So if you're just kind of sitting on the back of your heels there and wondering, when someone else is going to do something, then you're the person that, should be the one going out there and starting something in your club and maybe, encouraging others to get out there and do some stuff, both as a club and, as individuals in your club. So, that is what we're looking for, guys. So this is what we mean for our do good segment. So, we want to hear from you. Make sure you email us at livefreeandham@gmail.com with some of your experiences and what you're doing in your club. And we will be happy to share that on our next episodes and any other future episodes going forward. So, definitely do that. We want to give both props to you and props to your club, get their name out there and let folks know that there are good clubs out there that are doing some good stuff. So, all right. That kind of triggers and leads us into our usuals. So Todd, obviously what's been going on with your ham radio week, and you can throw it over to me after you're done.
All right. Well, I don't remember if it's the last time we did a podcast. I did get Arkansas. Did I talk about that? Or was that I was going to Arkansas?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So I got another state. I got New York, Memorial Day weekend. My son had a baseball tournament in Saratoga Springs, New York. Beautiful city. They already had the thoroughbreds there. I guess the next 2 years, this year and next year, the Belmont Stakes is going to be up in Saratoga because they're redoing Belmont Park. So
Nice.
There's a lot of horse stuff going on, at least prep. And that was last weekend, and the race is next weekend. So they were up there a few weeks early. Anyway, happened to be literally next door to a huge park.
Wow.
For my hotel.
Which
so
park?
I got up. It's in Saratoga. It's this huge. I forget the name of it, but it's a huge. Like it's got pools, museums, hot springs. I mean, it's pretty. So I was right next to it, and I'm like, I'm like, I'm gonna go check this out. So I grab my bag and take off in the morning, and I go sit down. I find a place right next to this Ferrari automobile museum that's in the park, and I found a picnic table and went up, and I made like 40 something contacts, and it was a little rough. Bands weren't as good as I wanted them to be, but I made the contacts. And it was good, and I picked up another state. So, we're not too far from New York, but far enough that you'd have to make a trip for it. So I was glad I got that. So now I've got all of New England and New York, and I got to hit New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I'm going to keep working my way south until I get the whole
Sweet.
East Coast. But
Yeah.
it was good. It was a quick activation. I was only there for maybe an hour, hour and a half.
Dude, 40 contacts in an hour, that's pretty good click rate. Yep.
Yeah, they just weren't very clear. There was a lot of QRM and a lot of the bands were fading in and out. So like I'd get someone and they'd like disappear and come back. And I was only on 20 meters. And like I said, I was trying to fix this in with all these baseball games that we had. And it was my last shot because we were leaving that night. And I'm like, I got to do this in the morning. So I got up early. Everyone was sleeping and went out and did it. So
Oh, nice. Dude, that's awesome
yeah.
when you can get out there and squeeze something in and still be able to like feel like you're
Yeah.
like, hey,
And,
success.
and it's like with my Buddy Pole Pro and my setup, like I can get that thing set up so fast now. Like it's not even like you don't even have to think about it. Like it's not even like a hassle. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna set this up and be done with it. So yeah, it was good.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like good. So that park, actually, I just kind of did a quick look on your log there. Saratoga Spa State Park, is I think it's
Spa, yeah.
Yes.
So they call
Spa.
it Saratoga Springs, right? So I'm guessing there's some kind of springs, but when you drive by this park, there's a salt bath building. And the building looks like it's old, but so I'm like thinking like the Roman baths, like you go in there and it's like, oh, it's salt. I didn't go in, but so that was that, and then they had like another like a spa. But then as you go in, there's horseback riding trails. There's a golf course. What else was there? They had a flea market thing going on, like in one of the things they were setting up when I was there.
Nice.
Pool, like a public pool that you can go to. The pool after the games, we went back to see if we could get the pool. It was so packed that there was like a waiting list to get into the pool.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, what? And I guess there's a hotel back there. I didn't go that far back, but really pretty. Cool place to go hike and walk. And if you want to ride your horse or play golf, the road goes all the way through it. And it didn't cost anything to get in. And
Nice.
and like I said, there was a car museum, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go in that because it was closed, but it had Ferrari and stuff on it, so I'm sure they had some old cars in there. So it was a nice place. And
40 contacts, you came out of it with a semi-terrible okay band condition. So hey, that ain't bad.
yeah, I mean, I'm just it wasn't like I didn't have contacts. It was just like there was a lot more out there that I just couldn't hear, and some of the contacts we really had to fight for. So those of you who worked me that day. And you dealt with the thing. I appreciate your patience, but we got through some of them. And I did work a guy on QRP, which was kind of cool. He was on 5 watts, and I want to say he was in Minnesota.
Wow,
which was crazy because like I heard him better than some of the other guys that were 100 watts.
It wasn't Kevin. It wasn't K0KLB, right?
No.
That would have been funny if you just totally glazed over and didn't pay attention.
Yeah, I have to go look, but I don't think it would. I think I would have remember that.
He would have picked up on you pretty quickly too, as well. So
yeah,
cool.
but it was cool. It was a good activation, and I was glad. I was happy. Once I got to 10, I was like, all right, I activated the park, so I'm good.
All done. Very cool. All right, well, that sounds like a pretty successful day in my books, at least for potoing and whatnot. But I didn't fare so well. I think I got the reverse of that. I had a couple of activations. One of them I already kind of shared about, but I think this week I was in Concord, Concord Historic, district. If you've ever been down there, that's the center of Concord and kind of the historical side of things. And
talking Mass,
Mass, yeah. And so I was like, all right, well, I brought my gear. I figured it was a nice day. It was good 70-degree weather, breezy, and I was like, all right, I'll go up to the closest park. And one of the parks I haven't activated was the Constitution State Park or National State Forest or something like that. And I sort of looked at the band, SFI index, and I kind of went, whatever, yeah, fine, And at that point, I think it was like red, 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 horrible, horrible, horrible. Like, doesn't matter what band it was. It was like, you're better off activating in the evening hours, kind of telling me. And I was like, yeah, go pound sand. So I kind of set up, and it was a beautiful park. I literally had nice and breezy. The one thing I didn't have at the time was my coil, because I had, basically taken it out of my bag. So all I had was my 213-inch whip, my Wolf River stand and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, I'll just tune that up on 20 because, heck, that'll be the closest I can get it. And set up, and the bands were literally dead. I mean, like, I barely heard, like, I could spin the dial, and like I looked at the POTUS spotting page, and there was 34 POTUS sites. I didn't hear one. I spun the dial all the way up and down 20, and I kind of turned to myself. I'm like, oh no, this one's going to be a long haul. Like, I didn't think I was going to be there for more than 30 minutes. I was there for about almost 2.5 hours, I think. It was a long slog for 11 contacts, and 4 of them were all like NVIS. So they were like Concord, another guy in Belmont, another guy just in Nashua. I'm like
Local.
This is really, really horrible. And so I was recording the whole thing, and I felt bad because when I made the video, I'm like, dude, this is a long video. There's like, and when you make videos about POTA activations, no matter how much you try to shorten it up, you really can't shorten it up an activation that's almost 3 hours long, and not kill somebody with like boredom. So I was like, all right, I'm going to make this a little humorous, and kind of turned it into an arcade game, and a few much other things. So I made a video on it. If you're interested, go check it out. You can go look on my channel.
Is it 3.5 hours long?
Oh no, God, no! It was barely 14, barely 12 minutes long. And that was with all my extra add-in, follies and stuff like that. So, but it kind of made me understand and learn that we are in the good times when it comes to the band conditions. So if I can operate in these conditions, that when we get to the end of the solar cycle that we're predicting that's going to, eventually come down the road, as to when, nobody really, has a definitive number, but, I'll be prepared. I know like what I should be bringing and what I, need to add to my, arsenal. So when those days come, I can, hopefully
we need amps is what we need.
Well, so you can hear some of these guys. It's just a matter of, just having the intent, getting the antenna like freaking way. I mean, literally, I was only on a extended whip, and I probably, if the band conditions were great, I could have lowered that down to like its original size and probably activated no problem. But
Right.
it was a
Well, when we did our rove on the seacoast, I mean, we set the thing up on 10 meters, and Europe was coming in like we couldn't stop them.
Exactly.
I mean, that was a great day. I was like, now that's what I'm talking band conditions. Like lately, it's been like you got to work it, and I think it's good. I'm like with you. I'm glad I've been able to activate parks with difficult band conditions, because I think it just makes you a better operator. You're trying to hear things, and you have to work through, and if you're missing something, and I'm always super polite. I always thank the guys that are being patient with me and trying to get their call sign. But sometimes the guy's like, "Oh, I got you a 5.9." I'm like, 5.9? I'm like, I can barely hear you. Like you're like a 1.1.
You're barely a fart in the wind.
I'm like, geez, like how can you hear me so well?
I know. That's exactly. It's funny. One guy I had a contact with he's like, oh yeah, I know where you are. He's like, I do reenactments over in that area. And he went on for like 3.5 minutes about how he did all the reenactments over on the battlefield. And, like, oh my gosh, like this is well worth, the time spent just having a conversation with them. So,
Yeah.
So,
No, it was good. And like I said, it's don't not go out because you think the band conditions might be bad, because you'll never know. You could always and then there's always someone out there that you connect good with, and you can have a good conversation with them. But
and don't worry. Like the other caveat to that is like, don't always go with the expectation that you have to always activate the park. It's nice to, but in essence, if you can't after 3.5 hours get 10 contacts, don't give up. I mean, the other option is if you bring your HT and you remember, then you can use 5.2 maybe, and leverage that a little bit, which might be a benefit. And I probably could have done that, because being on a hill, I probably would have had a really good range, but I didn't even think to bring my HT with me, and I didn't even think to hop in the truck and turn on 5.2 and call POTA, CQ POTA from there. I should have done that.
Yeah.
A lot easier, and then the pain that I caused myself. But you know, hey, it's a life lesson. You enjoy it. You know, like I said, like I said, any day not working, hey, you know, playing Poda is a better day in my book. It's the way I look at it.
Yeah, there you go.
So, so that was it for me. And then, you know, we did a couple other things. Today I actually was supposed to go out. You know, we went over to Bear Brook with the dog, and of course they don't allow dogs there, so I didn't get a chance to activate that park. But you know, hey, it is just kind of what it is. But you know, you live and you learn. You just, you know, you kind of roll with it. But looking
They
forward
don't
to
they don't allow dogs in Bear
no,
Brook.
which is freaking weird. Like,
They
you
got
know,
all
the
these
place
dead
is so
bodies in,
huge.
right?
Probably.
Right? No, they do. You heard about the murders there and
I have, but I
the
didn't know they were in
people?
the park area. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm like they don't let dogs in there, but they got steel drums of.
Body parts.
It's a good podcast. Just listen to it.
Okay.
It's called Bear Brook. It's actually it's pretty interesting.
Well, there you go. So if you're into that murder side of stuff, then you know,
Yeah,
make
that
sure to drop
criminal
us the link in
that
the
criminal
below.
stuff. I just think it's a park. Isn't that where dogs are supposed to hang out in the park?
You think so, but they're very, you know, they're very pointed about posting it every like 5 feet that dogs are not allowed there. Okay, fine. Okay, I get the point. Anyway, so with that, you know, it turned out to not be a bad day either way, even if I didn't get a chance to do a little POTA. So that kind of segues kind of in a good, you know, light here. So, you know, obviously with this podcast launching about a week or so into or a week before our official, you know, yearly mecca that all ham radio operators make their journey out to. You know, it's sort of like our Burning Man or Coachella. I mean, we kind of treat it that way. I mean, obviously without, you know, all the sex, drugs, and rock and roll in some case. But you know, it's always filled with, you know, the typical songs of our, you know, CW Dits and Does, you know, the shout outs of Four Alphas or One Hotels or Charlie Tangos. But you know, our little slice of you know, field day, you know, we do a ton of campfires, you know, lots of camping, great food, good beverages, and just hanging out and, you know, enjoying each other's company and talking radio. It's one of those things that, you know, we want to share with you. And, you know, we're going to hopefully kind of dive in a little bit here, talk about some of our experiences in the past that we've had for field days, because Todd and I are, you know, we're relatively, we'll say, new in that space. I mean, before I was with a COVID ham, you know, I was you know, a no code tech, and that was way back in '93 when I was a high school and teenager. So you know, things have changed quite drastically. But you know, we're gonna talk a little bit about some of our experiences tonight, and maybe share some of the stuff that's going on, because I once again took on the mantle of being field day coordinator for the 4th year or 5th year. I think it's 4th year, at least for me, for our field day. So, you know, we're going full steam, and would love to share some of the stuff I've done and what we're doing. So, you know, let's kind of talk a little bit about this. So, you know, obviously, Todd, we were talking offline a little bit. You were kind of juggling numbers. You think you're possibly going to be able to make it for field day this year? You know,
Yeah. Yeah. So so you know, I had field day in my calendar, but my wife's family, we get together every year, and it's a really great time. We went to Big Bear one year. That was like 2 years ago in California. My brother-in-law and his family lives in California. Their niece and my niece and my nephews live in Florida. So we went down to Florida last year, and then my other nephew moved from California to North Carolina, so we're going down to North Carolina. And my niece is going a week after our little vacation, is going to Ireland to study for a month. So they decided that, hey, let's get together field day weekend. And I'm like, no. And they're like, but there's no other time to do it.
Of course.
So
5-month weekend.
I looked on the calendar, and it says that we're going like Tuesday through Friday. We have the house rented. So I think we were planning on leaving sometime Sunday. My uncle lives in Maryland, probably stay there for a night. And then that's about 8 hours. And I think we have like another 5 hours after that to get down to the place for Tuesday. So I'm not sure how that works out, but if that's the case, then I should definitely be there Friday for setup and part of Saturday, which would be better than what I thought before we started talking, because I thought I was going to miss the whole thing, because I thought that was the weekend we were driving down. So
good.
So who knows? But we'll see. This will be my third field day as a general,
Mhm.
where I've been able to activate.
Or been
I've
part
been able to participate and work my own station and be by myself. The first year, it was the first year I stopped by, and Eric got me on the radio, and I made a contact in Pennsylvania, and I was like, "That's really awesome." And now it's like Pennsylvania is like local
It's
for
like, I get
us.
them all the time when I activate.
Yeah, like what the heck? That's just PA, like big deal. But anyway, so I'm hoping to be there at least for a little bit. And I it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I love field day. It's kind of like, I love the portable activation stuff. That's why I like POTA so much. And field day is just like the big grand finale. It's either the start of the POTA season, or it's just like the big event that you do, and it's just a lot of
Right.
fun. I mean, our club, we get bonfires going, we hang out. It's not all about getting
Yeah. We're not
100,000
a
points.
contesting club at all.
Yeah, we're not a contest club. I mean, we like to get on the radio and make contacts and see what we can do, but it's more about the companionship and then just having fun with radio and setting stuff up. And we've gotten a lot of visitors that have come by and have done it and learned. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I get to hang out with you guys for a weekend. So
I know, right? Well, it's kind of a interesting scenario because I like you said earlier, I block it off on the calendar and I start alerting the wife, right around April that that's already on the calendar for June, and I usually by the time May rolls around, I'm already constantly hearing, oh well, that's Dad's weekend. We can't do anything. He's gone for that whole entire weekend. I'm like, that's correct. I am gone. I am not here. You will have to take care of the animals and feed yourself and entertain yourself and all the other stuff. So, leading up to that, I usually rent a camper because still working on the wife getting one permanently, but we'll rent one for the weekend and I'll plop it down there and I'll set up Friday. When we start to do as a club, getting the antennas and the station, kind of configured and all of the typical like utility stuff done. So, when we roll in on Saturday later in the day per the rules, we can just plop the radio down, do a little tuning, and we're, just kind of sitting around, twiddle our thumbs, hanging out and waiting for the 2 o'clock or, high noon kickoff. So, all that, builds up to that. But I like you said, Todd, I am the one thing I love about our club, and the one thing that really just makes me happy is that we do our efforts in getting out there and making contacts, and we love making contacts, and we love trying to stretch our both our personal physical longevity and whether or not we can stay up as late as we possibly can after we've already been dragged through being there at like 9 in the morning and then there the Friday night before, using every little bit of energy to, to make those, midnight 40 meter or, 60 meter contacts or whatever, because the, band conditions have changed. But, I love the campfires. I love hanging out. I love just, hanging out and hanging out with you guys. I mean, that's just, a one weekend that we get to, just do nothing and play radio and not have to worry about anything else. It's kind of like a great comfort, vacation, sort of.
yeah, and then at the end of it, you're exhausted and you need a couple days off just
Oh
to
God, yeah.
recover.
Yeah.
Like after field day, you're just
Ugh.
like I haven't really done much except put all this stuff up, take it all down, and in between, activate.
That is the toughest part. Like I am so blessed to have because I'm obviously just a kind of little background. I do a lot of the POTA coordinator, so I'm like kind of the coordinator for our for our POTAs for our field days in general for the past 4 years, and so I have very much relied on making sure we have station captains. I've been ridiculed up and down the board. Why do we have station captains? Blah blah blah. I'm like, because it makes my life easier because they can do the job. They get out there. They know what they need. I just facilitate and kind of make things a little easier. And so, when those guys, Ryan's, you and Paul's and all those guys just do their stuff, get their gear, set up, it makes my field day experience because I can bounce around and play radio whenever I want and not have to feel like, oh my gosh, I got to set up my own radio station. I got to do all the antennas and, it just, it
Well,
makes things much funner.
and what's great about it is like now that we've done it at least the last 2 years of setting up and stuff, like it's getting easier. Like we know, like I know as a station captain what I need to do and what I have to have, and I keep adding to the like I put a little note down like, oh, next year I'm getting this because this will make my life easier. So yeah, so it's been
Yeah, right.
it's right. It's been It's been good, and I figured, like 5 or 10 years from now, like we'll just be like pros at it. It'll be like nothing. We'll be set up and ready to go in like an hour.
Yeah, so that's my goal. I'm hoping, that we all become almost literally proficient where they're dropping 3 things, and the hardest part is setting up the tent and putting the chairs
Right.
down versus the radios and the
Yeah.
antennas. But I think we're getting there.
Well, it's like when we did our summer or the Poda Rove, you and I didn't even talk, and we would set up and take down. We didn't even talk to each other while we were doing it, and we just knew what to do. And I mean, we were in and out of there so quick. I mean, we were cruising. So that's where I see field day like as a thing where like we don't have to talk to each other. We just everyone does their thing, gets it set up, and then we can sit down and relax.
I'm hoping with all of the efforts and all of the pre-planning and all of the meetings that I have with everybody, that literally everybody has their job. And to give credit to Ryan and give credit to Paul and Ira, who's been part of a field day, yourself and everybody. It's just been like simple and easy where a lot of people just don't even have to kind of come on Saturday to do much. They show up and they're like, what can I do? And we're like, you can't do anything. We're all done. I mean, we're just literally sitting around hanging out, which is exactly what I like to hear, because that means, you're confident, and everyone's confident, and we're ready to get on the air and start having a party.
Yeah. I mean, like the first year I did it, like I went to a field day the year before. I saw you guys set up an antenna that didn't work.
Oh gosh, that was a story.
Remember that year? and I was there like the whole day, and I was like, and I come home and my wife's like, so how was it? And I'm like, I don't get it. It's like they spent a whole day setting up this huge antenna and it didn't even work. Like I don't understand what the whole like what are they doing? And then the following year I came and she goes, how was it? I'm like, it was awesome. I get it now. I'm like contacts.
So let's talk about that. That was actually, I think, your first introduction to field day. That was my first official field day. I was actually coordinator of that. That was run by somebody else in the club. And the funny story with that, and you mentioned that big antenna. And so let's talk about that, because I think it was almost comical. The antenna was a homebrew built antenna by one of our club members. Now
it looked like a missile launcher.
It was a two element 4 square, I think, beam. Basically, it was, for all intents and purposes, a 2-element beam on 40. So it was a monoband antenna, and they were yeah, it was only one band, which is why I don't understand.
Took up the whole field.
They literally put up an Army Tower mast. I mean, the Army Tower mast took us 2.5 hours to put up because nobody had the instructions, or the instructions we had were in German because they couldn't read it. So we had to guess. So we put this 40-foot tower up, put this wooden antenna that, was probably like 20 by 20. It was crazy huge. And it went up, and the person who put it up, or the person who built it, was like, oh yeah, we tested it weeks before. But he didn't test it before he put it up in the air when we were there. So it got up in the air, and they hoisted it up, and it was tied to the barn pergola and this big Army mast. And come to find out, we put the CW station on it, and the antenna match that's put up at the very top of the antenna was broken, or nobody put it in. So it's sat up there as a decoration for the whole entire weekend. And we spent literally almost the whole entire Friday and part of Saturday morning putting the stupid thing up. It was like, oh,
I'm like, these guys are a bunch of losers. They put up this huge antenna that didn't even work. Like, who are these guys?
To their credit, they did test it like 2 weeks before, which is great. But like the day of, they obviously didn't put it away carefully so it would be ready for the next, actual field day. And, it was just kind of my first introduction. I was like, okay. And then, we have a club member, Ray, and we'll leave his call sign out. He's a great guy. But he literally packed his caravan. He has a small Dodge Caravan. He packed that thing to the gills with stuff, everything you could think of, wires, cables, radios, antennas, and pulls up. And literally, like, one box after a Tupperware box after, clear, storage box, he keeps coming up, bringing stuff out. And I mean, literally, he took almost a day and a half to get set up because he had so much stuff, and, he only knew where it was. So nobody could really help him out setting that stuff up. And so I was just like, there's got to be a better way to do this. I mean, I don't know how, we could get stuff for this. I'm tired, and I haven't even started operating yet.
Right.
So,
No, it was very chaotic. I remember, yeah, it was very chaotic. And like I said, I didn't know what field day was. So for me, I was just like, look at this chaos. It's just crazy. Now, since then, since you've taken over, it's been run really well. It's been very fluid. It's been in control. Everything's organized. Food is good. Tim does the food. We've got the stations where we all are connected with computers, so we know, what band everyone. It's been a lot, and I don't know. For me, maybe it's because I understand it more, but I really think that it just seems more organized. I mean, we have families coming in, people walking through. It's a good experience. I think it's definitely gotten better, and I think it's actually last year I think was larger than the year before, at least with people that were visiting and checking us out, versus the first couple years I was there. So
And so we kind of, as a club, do some interesting things that, maybe not a lot of people who do, field days do, whether they're doing it privately or they, those that are going to be watching this video are going to be seeing my son later with the dog in the background. He's been at my ankles trying to, get my attention while I'm doing this recording. But hey, we'll plug on. But the funny thing with our club, that has done really well is that we started to do this education pavilion thing that ARL's kind of been pushing a little bit, which is like, hey, get out, like get the public involved, bring them in, draw them in. And so I've been trying to push really hard about like, okay, let's do a little aspect of, DMR and digital radios. Let's do, a fox hunt, and let's do, a go to station. So we've done and kind of been adding to that year over year. And it's been really good. Like you said, like I think our first year that we did that, we had a family of 11 all show up, and they were like, it was funny to watch them because they went out and did the fox hunt, and where we are in our barn, in our area in Goffstown, we have a huge barn, and it's like 12, it's a good percentage of acres. I mean, it's good 10, 12 acres of just grass. And so like the guy who in our club, who's a fox hunt guy, put his transmitter out there somewhere, and you see this group of 11 people kind of all moving like in a small little, like, unit. It's almost like the lemmings going over the cliff, all together while they're all trying to do this fox hunt. And so it was just like, they were like totally stoked. And I mean, that was year, I think Tim had a couple of friends who, did the go to contact and were able to make a few contacts at the go station, and it was just, it was good to see. So I'm pretty excited.
It's a cool thing. If you've never seen ham radio and you stumble upon our field day, you're gonna get on the air, and you're gonna be able to do some fun things, and it always seems the kids that are there are really interested in it, and they want to touch the knobs and the dials, and I always let them do it. I go nuts, like, here you go, turn that, let's see what we can get. So
yeah, and we've got some great things, and I'll kind of give you a little sneak peek. I mean, we ended up having a couple of new guys in the club that want to step up to do the go to station. So they've graciously decided to take one of our club members, our president's 7300, and so they're going to get to see this SDR waterfall, and they're going to be able to use the hex beam, and they're going to be able to get like all of these great contacts at the go to station. But this year we're going to be doing a tape measure Yagi. So one of the things we're doing in our club prior to that is just building a few for our own fox hunting, but we're going to do fox hunts there. So we're going to get the kids to be able to kind of build the little kit there and do a quick solder, and hopefully that'll, get them encouraged to want to get out and, take their own antennas with a couple of loaner HTs that we have in the club to be able to, do a fox hunt and enjoy some of that stuff. And I got a bunch of guys and gals that all want to do like different aspects of like, hey, I think, a couple of members of our club are going to do a couple of present demos of like DMR and All-Star and that type of stuff, as well as, HTs. And Ralph has graciously decided to bring his whole Quan Chang. Yes, Ralph, you are the Quan Chang guy, to the field day. So he'll be able to show all those off.
Did he rent a U-Haul for him? Like, he's probably going to need one.
He might, but but actually, I keep forgetting. One of those shirts that I kind of came up with one of our club members was, "I speak fluent," and then ... on the back is going to be Quan Chang, Bao Fang, and TID. We're going to give it to Ralph once we make it.
He has anytime there's a little change in any of those radios, like anything under $30, he's got them.
Yeah, and he's the man of knowing everything about a Quan Chang or any of those radios, and he is if you are ever in the New England area and you bump into KC1 TLY, he is the guy to know the difference between every Quancheng radio, and he is a wealth of knowledge. And we thank him for taking up that mantle because we all give him gruff from sometime in the club, but in essence we appreciate him doing that for us for sure.
No, he's a good guy, and he's on a lot of repeaters. So if you're up here, you'll probably talk to him.
Yeah, he's got a nice spot. He's a what 1700 ASL from most people, and he can hit like a repeater halfway down and Nantucket, with less than a watt. So
Yeah,
it's pretty intense.
he's everywhere, which
yeah.
is cool because when I'm driving around traveling New Hampshire or New England, you can always find him somewhere at some repeater. Yeah.
So cool. All right. Well, so from a standpoint of field day, what kind of aspects, like you obviously alluded to a little bit of them, but like were there anything one specific area that you kind of like over another that we do, or that you've been involved in or you've had some experience with?
I like I just like getting on the radio. I love just operating the radio, and I like to get my own frequency and get the pile ups, and I just like to work it. Like that 2 years ago, we're hanging out at the fireplace, and no one was at my station at the time. I'm like, I'm gonna go work the radio for a little bit. Like, all right, we'll see you in a bit. So I go in there and I got into pile ups, and I was like in the zone, right? And all of a sudden I look at my watch, I'm like, wow, it's like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, wow, I better go get some sleep. I walk out and I was like, everyone's gone. Like it was dead pitch black. There wasn't even moon out. I'm like, where'd everyone go? I sneak into Eric's trailer. His dad's in there snoring. I'm like, is there even a place for me to crash here? But I'm like, where did everyone go? And then the next morning you're like, dude, you got like the most contacts in the club. Like you gotta get like 3 more, and what was it, like 100 or something?
You had the biggest run rate at that time, I think, for most of us. But
And it was all in the middle of the night.
It was, yeah. And so that's actually a good tip. I mean, in essence, if you go to operate in your club and you want to operate without any interruption, that is the best time that you can get, is in the evening hours when nobody else is around.
Yeah, everyone's asleep, and there's crazy people like me out there that are working it. So that was a lot of fun. But then you said I had to get like 3 or 4 more, and I jumped over to Ryan's tent. And it took me like 3 hours to get like the last 4 contacts. I'm like, come on.
You went from Yezu to ICOM, so I totally
understand. I know. I had all kinds of problems. I'm like, I couldn't make a contact the life of me.
Yeah. It's amazing. Like one of the things we did integrate this year that, obviously was the reason why we knew Todd's run rate and what was going on, is that was, I think, the first year we implemented Kyle Alpha 0 Z's N1MM, field day dashboard in Node Red. And that was just like kind of the impetus for me, because like once we had that set up, I can't tell you how many people would be like, what is, like, they come up to like that station, and we had a big monitor set up, and they were able to see it all in like a 40-inch TV, and they were like, are they making contacts? Because if you've ever seen Kyle's Node Red dashboard, it like tracks real time from all the N1MM contacts that are being made during field day, and maps all those out. So you see like all these like shooting, runs from one location to another. And, you see all these run rates and who's like the best, in terms of the club, in terms of making the most contacts in the short amount of time, and what the most popular band are. So it's pretty cool in like the sense of making it gamification. So I think that kind of just like made things that much better. And so we'll be doing it again this year. It's guaranteed. I got that all set up. So I'm looking forward to, having that integrated into the box. So yeah. That one, I think that makes field day, that much better, because it attracts people, but at the same time, builds a little bit of like, a little fair competition between one another, even though we're, not laying money down.
Well, yeah, because our president was like, "Oh, I got the most contacts," and I wasn't even going for it. But then when Eric said, "You got the most contacts, like by a lot, like you need to," I'm like, "Really?" I could give Bill some crap for the rest of the year. Like, oh yeah, I thought you were the king of contacts.
Well, he was the first year, and I think that was
I know
he did night. But after that, the throne was knocked clear, and you kind of slid right.
And then last year, I had no luck at all.
Yeah, that was a tough one. So you got to talk about that one. We alluded to it.
So last year, I got my own. I'm the captain, or station captain. I bought this kick-ass kind of tent. I got sides. It's got vents. Because the first year I was in like a tent and I was dying. I'm like, I need ventilation, right? So I'm all set. I'm going and I'm making contact. I'm hearing people and I can't make a contact for the life of me. And I'm like, why aren't these people responding to me? I'm calling, nothing. Well, how many did I make? Like five total contacts, but I had blown my finals on my radio.
Not knowing it.
Not knowing it. So I'm operating with no finals and couldn't understand why I couldn't get anyone. And we didn't know. So we swapped out the radios and Ryan gave us his ICOM and he's like, oh, ICOM to the rescue. And then things obviously got better. Yeah. I sent it back to Yesu and yep, my finals, but they covered it. It was under warranty and I got it back within like less than 2 weeks. Yeah. Good to know. Win. Yeah, but it was I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? Serious?
That was tough.
But I made 5 contacts. That should be something, right?
Nevertheless, like the day you showed up, you had already had like so much baseball at that point. By the time you decided to be station captain, you were like, you set up the tent and you called me in a panic. You were like, dude, I don't have a tent. The damn thing's broken. Like,
it was inside out. Right. So I bought it on Amazon, and when I got it, it looked like it was like it was just, it looked like someone had taken it apart or whatever. So we take it out and the thing's inside out, but it's like a pop-up tent. Like it just pops up and it's not like, and I'm like, it's inside out. And we all of us can do it. Well, Paul decided that, he's the Marine and he could fix anything, looks at it and he goes, it's inside out. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, that's not good. And he goes, well, let's just twist it around. And I'm like, it ain't gonna. We had the whole thing right except one piece, and he somehow twisted it and popped it back, and we got it up and going. So it was well worth. I mean, it was. I'm just glad it was home because I was so pissed. I'm like, I'm sending this back with a note. Like, why did you send me a? No wonder they returned it. It was built inside out. But yeah, so we got that up, and that's one thing I learned is make sure before you buy crap from Amazon, take it out and put it together first before you show up to field day. But it was a last minute buy, I didn't have a tent, so needed the shelter
to get it all doing. Yeah, we all have run that, hey, I'm going to do early prep, and I think that's kind of why, like when I am as a coordinator, I push very much early on. Like I start kind of putting the feelers out like late April. And then when May starts, I'm already like in our club meeting saying, hey, we're talking about field day. We're having a station captain's meeting. I'm already talking with, organizing our station captain. So by the time June rolls around, that's already been ironed out. And, it's just a matter of like, oh, are you missing a chair or are you missing a tent? What do you need? Like kind of things. And that's how I think a lot of a club can be very helpful because you can always put an APB out and say, hey, we need 5 extension cords, put your name on them and bring them to field day. And lo and behold, they'll show up at your door. Or I need, like, I remember one year I'm like, I need 2 painters poles. And I got 2 people in 2 minutes and then 5 others like, oh, I'll just drop it off when I'm like, so we had like 5 extra, like, painters poles one year, just leaning up against a building, not knowing what we were going to do with them. And, I'm just like, so it's good because there are club members. And if you are going with the club, you'll find that, doing that if you're either part of the planning team or you're, a station captain this year is that you don't always have to have everything and you don't have to spend a lot because more likely there's 5 other club members that might have that stuff that they'd be willing to loan out. And we all know hams love to do that stuff. So, take advantage of that if you're going to be a station captain this year and try your hand at that because it's a lot of work. No doubt.
Well, like I said, it's a learning experience, but even with the finals going out and having the switch radio, I did get on the radio, but then I had other problems. I couldn't get into pile-ups and I keep trying and trying. Then your lovely daughter, let me give it a shot. One,
the female touch,
the one time. And then all of a sudden, freaking boom. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I've been at this for 40 minutes. You make one call out and she nailed it. I'm like, oh.
You didn't know the secret that ICOM traditionally, people who own ICOM have high-pitched female voices anyway. So that's why, she just stepped up to the mic. So, all of the Pauls, the Ryans, there's a dig there. So, figured that one out. So,
But that was
all's fair.
that was pretty good because I thought that I was like, I can't believe it. I said I've been trying to work this guy for 40 minutes, and she comes in, makes one call out, and boom. So clearly the guy heard me. He was like, yeah, I'm not calling that guy.
But to the other side of the coin, I should back up. Her first year that she kind of came to field day to kind of hang out with Dad, myself. It was she sat down at one of the stations that we helped set up, and she couldn't make a single contact whatsoever. And she's like, "Dad, I thought you kept telling me. Everyone kept telling me that a female voice would be easy. We'd be able to in contacts, and you'd be like blah blah blah." And I'm like, I'm not lying. It's very true. It happens." And she got no contacts whatsoever. And so I think that was her redeeming, point in making sure that she happened. And so I think she'll actually be back this year too. So, if anything, I'm
Well,
sure
her and her friend, they said they had a blast the last time they were there.
yeah, and they are. If you ever want to see them in action, I've got a video on my channel that we did a live fox hunt where they were the live foxes, which is always a blast to have them involved. But they also, both of them, come to field day. My daughter is licensed, so she's hoping to get her friend involved, and we'll see one day if that ever happens. But all fair. It's good to see young people and playing radio, and that's all we can wish for, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's the ham. That's the ham radio weekend. That's the day that it's kind of like our Christmas for ham radio. It's like that's when everyone gets out there and everyone's on the air. I mean, during the day, trying to find an open frequency is tough. Like if you get one, you better stay on it because you're never going to get it back.
It's worse than worldwide, WPX contest. I mean, literally, US bands are like, flooded. And even when 10 meters could be totally dead, and 10 meters will still be flooded with a bunch of contacts, because it's just like people just get on the air and start, cranking up the amps and, putting 100 watts out there and making sure that they're, making themselves heard for sure.
Yeah. No, so it's good. But yeah, those are my two big major stories of my field day experiences. And like I said, I hope to make many more throughout the years. But
so you were in the process. I mean, obviously we had talked away a couple of months back. You were obviously working on your go kit and your bag and stuff like that. I mean, anything that you kind of gleaned from when you ran your first station captain that, if someone, say, is a listener in our podcast that's thinking about being a station captain or wants to kind of get down that road, any, recommendations or suggestions you could offer somebody?
yeah, I mean, bring a fan, multiple fans, because it gets hot.
Oh yeah.
If it's a hot day and you're inside, even if you're in a tent that has ventilation, like the first year I was in your family of 8 tent, and it was like a sauna in there. But a fan, extra chairs, so people can come in and hang out. And my octagon kind of thing is kind of big, so it can hold a bunch of people. So, I bring some extra chairs, some a table, a good table to do it. And then just make sure you got your battery or whatever you're using for your power source. And, if you have your solar panels, but, keep it simple. You don't need too much, but you need enough to make sure you've got enough, power. And I put a light. I have this little, it looks like a light bulb, but it hangs in the center of my tent.
I like that a lot. That
right?
was pretty nice.
And then you just turn it on, and at least, because if you don't, it's pitch black. And like I said, I've had some experiences in ham radio, like when I did my first night activation at Silver Lake, and I'm in the zone. It was my first pile up, and you guys are texting me saying, "Keep going, you're doing great, keep going, keep going." And then all of a sudden, it's like, I've been there for like 3 hours, and I look up, and it's pitch black, and all I had was my phone. And it was running out of batteries. Like I had to go take the antenna down. Like I couldn't see anything. So flashlight or some kind of a light would just make it easier, just to see. It doesn't have to be super bright, but at least that you have some, especially if you're jotting something down or you need to do something. So, but yeah, and like I said, just make it comfortable and make it. I bring splitters, so you can have the 2 headphones on. So people can play.
Kind of funny you say that, because I don't think a lot of we pushed hard one year. I remember doing that. Everyone had to kind of bring your own headset, and 9 times out of 10, I just was like, I was getting so sticky with my ears. I was like, it's just easier to just, if you're, you're solo or maybe with somebody else, just turn the volume up. I mean, it can't hurt any much. And, from 9 times out of 10,
If I was like, if people were there, I'd just do it with the hand mic,
Yeah.
and the speaker on the radio. If I was alone and like at night or whatever, I like having the headset on and the boom mic and the foot pedal, and that's just how I do it in the shack, and it's just what I'm used to doing. But again, when I do POTA, I don't do that. I do have headphones for POTA. I haven't used them yet, but I should probably try them out and make sure they work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a lot like me. When you go out and activate, you're alone anyway. So 9 times out of
Yeah.
10, you want to be able to hear the stuff around you because God forbid someone comes and stab you in the back or something.
Well, right.
Where,
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, when you have the headphones on, you get into that zone. Like, you're not hearing. You can focus, right? So, yeah.
so
Well,
that makes sense.
my POTA headphones is like it's got one ear and one ear open, so I could hear both. But
So that worked out good.
because sometimes, I mean, at least in POTA, like, if like I did that one in Boston, and the train kept going by, and it was like literally like the track was there, and it like every 10 minutes, and I was like, oh Jesus, here it comes. And then planes are taking off. I'm like, this is the crappiest park ever. Like, planes taking off, trains going by. I wish I had a headset then.
I know that would make total sense in that scenario. So, yeah, I think you touched on one, and I drill, like, as a coordinator, I drill home comfort. Like, I mean, people are tired of hearing me say the word comfort. And when I do my POTA presentations, the same way, it's like I'm all about comfort. I'm like all about the idea of, you're going to be sitting in this freaking chair for probably 3 hours on average, if you're lucky, probably if not more. Be comfortable. Have a cooler. I mean, the one thing I make sure all my station captains do is, like, they have a cooler full of stuff, like, so it's always in arm's reach versus, like, yelling in the middle of your, run of like, hey, can someone grab me a water because I can't, like, talk any longer, kind of thing. And
Yeah,
so,
you definitely want to stay hydrated, and even have like snacks, like if you get hungry, if you're doing the late night stuff, just to keep your energy, and you don't want to get dehydrated. But yeah, I mean, I bring a table, and then I have like an operating chair. But then if it's getting really late, I throw the laptop on my lap, and I sit down in my little rocker chair and
and recline.
lean back. And if you're just trying to make contacts, I mean, it's not too hard. I mean,
That works.
so I mean, but again, it's whatever your preference is, but have multiple options for, if you have headphones, don't forget the hand mic in case you get a crowd of people that want to try it and you want people to hear. Or if someone doesn't have their headphones, I normally bring my foot switch, but I also have a hand switch too that I can use. It looks like a trigger. It's like a button on the top. I don't know what they call it.
No, yeah, it's basically a finger switch, and so
Yeah.
I think those are better a lot of times versus the foot switch because you're outdoors and you're smashing it in
Yeah.
the grass or trying to have a piece of wood that you can't.
Yeah,
hold
so I
stick.
think I use that one more than a foot switch. I bring both of them, but I think on field day I use that more.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think I remember using it more myself just because it's just easier to, do that and then type with one finger on the keyboard if you're, logging for yourself and stuff like that. But yeah, all good things for sure. I mean, in essence, I think, the biggest things are obviously, making sure you're comfortable and, those that are working with you. And don't forget the biggest thing, like drag a new ham in who's like afraid to get on the air but wouldn't mind logging at the laptop. So, I did that to Todd. I mean, Todd will share some of his stories with that, but that's the whole ordeal is like, if you get somebody involved with the logging aspect, they can hear and develop the ear of like, what did you hear? Did you hear that? And, you can kind of do this two-way conversation while you're trying to work the contact, and people will start to see you do the whole script process. And we do as a club too, as well. As kind of the coordinator, I provide a whole bunch of laminated pieces of, critical, things like the whole section rack information that ARL puts out. So, which state the band map, which really in most cases doesn't matter because the radio kind of controls that. But in essence, anybody who's going to be at the radio is going to know the bands pretty well. And we're already, most of the clubs today, when they're using their club calls, are going to be extras anyway. So you won't have to worry about, being in one portion
Except
or
me.
another. Yeah. Okay. Well, even then, you're running a club call, so you run an extra either way. And then you have
Still a general.
it's still a general. It's in his title there. So anyway, all of that, those things that your coordinator, the guy, the person in charge of kind of putting field together should have for you just to make the things easier. And the script is a big thing too.
Yeah.
I always make sure that a script is
Yeah.
there and available.
It's really nice to have that. I found that when I was doing that late night thing, like your brain starts to get a little
Yeah.
like disconnected from yourself and you forget what you're even saying. It's always nice to look and re-educate. You're like, oh yeah, I gotta say that. Like,
Oh,
what's
yeah.
that call? What's
New Hampshire.
that call sign I've been saying for the last 10 hours? Like, what is it again?
Queer what? I don't
Yeah.
know. Whatever. Crazy what?
Yeah. No, but yeah, those things are great. I mean, and again, someone, if someone's new or hasn't done it, it's always a good reference. Like I love those kind of cheat sheets. I mean, I still use them. I still use the band charts, even though I pretty much have them memorized. I still have it out when I do POTA just to be on the safe side, or
Yep.
just to reassure that I'm not jumping into the
3,000 kilohertz, 3 kilohertz down from 350. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah.
So, but it worked. It's all good. And yeah, and bug spray definitely bring. I mean,
Yes.
listen, I would recommend those Duracell little capsule. Do you have one?
Yep.
Yes. Get that.
If I could push this under like a
Spend the money, the
Yep.
$30, and buy the cartridge and stick it in there and turn it on, and you will thank me.
Oh yes.
And you'll thank Duracell, because that thing is that thing will get rid of bugs like to no end. And I tell you, when I was doing that Silver Lake, that first night Activision, I had that thing sitting on the table and I wasn't bothered by a bug.
Mhm.
Now, when I ended and it was pitch black and I went to walk over to the antenna, I got swarmed by like the mosquitoes of death. I was like, what? And I literally carried that thing with me. I'm like, these things are biting me as I'm walking out. I'm like, this is.
I'm literally thinking about 3D printing like a belt clip harness that you could put on your side of your just to carry with you.
Yeah, wear it around your neck like a what a rapper chains. The thing is, they're awesome. I mean, they really are, and they work and they keep the bugs away. And there's nothing worse than having, and the bugs are going to get into your shelter, into your tent. I mean, they're just going to be there. Yeah. So, maybe it's not as bad, but I mean, we were sitting by the fire and I brought mine out there and I sat it down next to the thing, and it keeps them away. And if you get a couple, if everyone has one, there won't be any bugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. I mean, in essence, it gives you the comfort to be able to operate and not have to constantly go.
Yeah,
every 5 seconds. So
and note, the next time that we have an eclipse, make sure you have one going, because when Eric and I were operating during the eclipse, all of a sudden, like the mosquitoes came. Like, where do all these bugs come from?
Weird, so bizarre.
Right, that was crazy.
Ever that would happen. So we'll have to note that next eclipse whenever that happens.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. So let's kind of talk, just kind of wrap a little bow on this a little bit. So obviously, if you're not doing this with a club and you're going to go out and operate for field day, totally okay. There are many classes and many ways to do this. The one thing that it seems to be very popular, at least the past couple of years, has been going out to a POTA park and then also operating field day as well. So you get kind of the dual credit. So if you're thinking about doing that, put it on your checklist in your to-do list, your bucket list, because it's definitely one of those things that you'll be able to, rack up a boatload of contacts for your POTA park that you might even be able to get your kilo depending on how long you spend there.
Yeah.
In general, or just in general, being able to activate outdoors.
So what would you be like? CQ Parks on the Air Field Day?
Yeah, it'd be
/ field.
So basically, when people picked you up or whatever, when you're doing your park, you obviously want to get the park credit. And now it's even more simpler, because now you don't really even have to tell your park number most of the times, because the database will pick it up. So when people submit logs, it automatically does it for you. So you don't really even have to provide your park reference information. So a lot of times you can just call CQ and people will pick you up.
Maybe I'll get Alaska and Hawaii on field day, Parks on the Air.
I mean, if you do, you get a
That's gonna be my goal. I'm gonna be searching that website and be like, yep, I'm going to that station. Who's got the 10-meter band? I need to get out
I
there.
think I'm never going to be able to get Alaska is if I literally, take a vacation out to the, a little bit west of the Mississippi to be able to set up an antenna to, have.
I keep getting the alerts, and I
know.
I hear everyone else working them, but I can't hear them for.
Yep. I'm almost at the point of like, hey, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes paying for those remote stations on the California side just so I can make a contact with them and get them off my list. So,
Well, I'm wondering when I put up the DX command,
you might
hope I might be, because, like I said, when I do POTA, I get Alaska all the time on my vertical, all the time. Like in Nashua, when we do the rail trail, I've gotten North Pole Alaska like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah,
and that's like in the middle of Alaska, like it's like dead center, right? And I'm like, that's the only town like probably within like a couple hundred miles. So I figured if you're getting that, if I can get that, they're just never at a park. I'm like, isn't there a park you can go run to and make a contact with?
Thank you. Well, so I know Jeremy watching his KL7EC's videos. He had done a POTA. He did a dual POTA and a field day one year, so it's very possible that he might be doing it again. We'll see if he takes that on again this year. But yeah, I tried the same thing, and I failed miserably and cannot make it can't hear him at all.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's like I can't hear. I hear everyone else talking to him. I just can't.
Yep.
And I've tried. I have it on my phone, and what I'll do is because I have the Flex, I can just check and go on and see if I can hear them. And if I can hear them, then I can either work them from my phone, or I can run down to the shack and
to the Flex.
But I heard him once, and I ran down to the shack, and it was gone. Yeah. And I should have just sat there on my phone and done it, because I probably would have gotten them.
Could have, man, dude. You would have saved yourself some time. Cool. All right. So how can we kind of wrap this up a little bit? So, I mean, obviously field day, let's kind of talk about 2 different ways. So, obviously say, from a new beginner, what would we give for suggestions or, recommendation for someone who just got their ticket, just starting to hear about field day, what bit of advice?
Go to a field day event, a club, anyone that's doing it. Most clubs will have stations that you can possibly, like our club, we don't do like sign-ups or anything. So it's like, you can just go in there, and like, if I'm working a station and you have an hour, go ahead, I'll give it up for you and go nuts. But I know other clubs, they have sign-ups and stuff, but figure out where you're going to go and get on the air and just have fun. And if you've never done it before, just go down with someone who has, and just enjoy yourself and make some contacts, and you help your club, and you'll have a lot of fun. And like I said, there's nothing like making your first
contact to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, right? But like your first contact HF, and you're not like in, line of sight. It's kind of exciting, and like, look at last summer when I was working Australia, I was excited. Like, that to me is like, that is awesome. I'm like, that's 10,500 miles away, and I'm having a conversation with a guy who's in winter and I'm in summer.
I know.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's just cool. And, I remember the first time I hit Europe, and I was like, wow. I'm literally talking to a guy over the radio to Europe. So, I mean, people who have never experienced it, it's good. And even if you get in just local states, around it, it's still cool to make the contacts and get in the logbook, and you'll just have a blast. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. And I would say, if you're a technician and you're just coming to your first field day, don't be afraid to just kind of jump in with someone that might be a little bit more seasoned, because a lot of times, a lot of these stations will have somebody who is pretty, we'll call as the leader of the station, and that may be a station captain or not, but in essence, it might be someone who's pretty well seasoned. If a club's done its job in putting together all those reference materials we talked about earlier, you should be able to just sit down, kind of follow that script, and then follow whatever this person's doing. And 9 times out of 10, if they ask you, just say yes. Just go do it. Like, just take the microphone, try it out, and you will surprise yourself that you will probably stumble over every freaking word. You'll probably screw up the the section and the rack information. But after it's all done, you'll be like, holy crap, I just made a contact with somebody wherever, and you fill in the blank. But you will forever remember that, like Todd says, and you'll probably more likely just keep coming back for more. I mean, that's
what happens. It's what happens. It's what happened to me. And I mean, I'm surprised Eric's still my friend after I got my general. We did our first POTA activation. It was a nightmare. And I'm like, I suck at this. Like, I can't do this. Like, what did I just do?
Because you weren't around for my first one, so you have no
But,
idea, and I
but,
don't talk about it.
but it's like you'll see guys out there that have been like hams for like decades and decades, but they don't really operate that much. And then you get like guys like me who I know nothing about radio really. I mean, I'm learning a little bit here and there, but like I like to operate and I like to do the field stuff, and I can work pileups. And no one really taught me. It was like trial and error. It's like you just get into it and you learn. And once you get rid of that mic fright, is what they call it. They call it what, mic
Yeah,
fright.
that's what we did. Yeah,
Then it's then it just becomes second. It's like muscle memory. It's like riding a bike. You just get on there and you do it, and you'll flub up some things, and everyone's cool, and they're all, I've never, I mean, I've never had anyone like really rude to me on the air. I know there's some guys out there, and I know there's some YouTube videos and stuff, but even when I'm having a hard time hearing someone and they're being patient and I'm asking them over and over, can you please give me the suffix? I can't get the suffix.
yeah,
But then I always thank them for their patience, and I'm glad we were able to make the contact. And that's what it's all about. It's about communicating. And if communication was always so easy, it would make it fun. So I look at it when the bands are tough or you're having trouble and you're really trying to get a contact with a lot of noise, and you can filter out the noise and actually make the contact. That's like a great skill to have, because now you're able to pick up a weak signal.
right.
And I've been doing this last couple of months, maybe a month or two, I've noticed like when I'm doing the POTAs, it's been a lot more difficult. It hasn't been as clear. There's a lot of noise, some static. The bands aren't where they need to be, but I kind of get a really good appreciation for QRP because I'm imagining QRP is like that a lot, even when the bands are good. So it gives me a little respect for those guys that like that push through the 5 watts or less. And
More so, but when you answer one that sounds like it's a 5.9 and sitting freaking next to you and running 5 watts, you're more blown away every day.
yeah, yeah. So like I said, it's a, you just got to go out there and do it. And if you're a little afraid, like you don't know if you want to do it, then ask, hey, do you want to log? Like when people say, hey, can I log for you? I'm like, please do. Like, let's do this. Like then I can just focus on the radio, right? But you might hear them, see how they do it. You get used to the sound. You're hearing the responses you're getting from the other end, and then if you screw it up, I mean, it's not like you're going to jail. It's like, yeah, you screwed up, big deal.
You can
Do
laugh
it
at
again.
move on, man. Laugh on
Yeah.
and move on again.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And so, all right. So that's definitely great advice for a new ham, or kind of a relatively new ham. What would you give for advice for someone who's been doing this for 20 plus years?
Be patient with the newbies, right? We got to keep this hobby going. So if there's a young kid that wants to get on, be patient.
30-year-old.
Yeah, adult too. But
Yep.
the more people we get into the hobby, the better it is for the hobby, right? The more people we have on the air, the better it is for all of us, because there'll be more people for us to contact. But be patient. Try to remember when you first started and how you might have felt as a new ham, learning or getting on the air for the first time, and just make it fun for everyone. That's basically what I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would throw one caveat in there, is like in the patience process, don't worry about the nomenclature or the details a lot. If they miss something or they don't always pass it, I guarantee 9 times out of 10 the other receiving station's going to go, hey, can I have, or can you fill in, or can I get your section? And 9 times out of 10 what will happen is that someone will be like, what are they asking for? And you'd be like, oh, that's where you can jump in. Don't try to always feed or spoon feed them every single step, because it's not going to stick in their mind. It's not going to make them feel like they're part of the process and doing it themselves. Like, just kind of, show a script or write it down if you don't have a script, a little bit, to give them some of, something to hold on to as a safety blanket. But,
and there's no wrong or right way to do it. Like everyone has different styles. Everyone, it's getting the main things out there and the information that you need, but there's no right or wrong way. Some people, repeat the call sign every time. their call sign everything. Some people don't, and if you need something you don't have, just ask, because they're not going to bite you. They're going to make sure that you've got them clearly in your contact, especially the call sign. Like if you think you might have messed up the call, even I will sometimes, if I get a call sign, I'm almost sure, but maybe I'm not, I'll ask them and say, hey, just to be sure, your call sign is blah, 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 like N1JUR. And then, no, it was, you missed, one letter, because you want to get the logs, accurate, because then they don't get the contact either. So
Yep.
it's always good that way. And then
the one thing I would throw on that was that don't take the mic away from them to give the person on the other end the information.
Yeah.
Feed the information to the person who has the mic. Don't let them give up that mic.
Yeah. You let them finish that contact. That's their contact, and do it. And an example of, like, I give just a quick story about how using the radio and kind of being creative about it. So I was in New York, my last photo activation, and I'm working this guy, and it's a park to park, and he has no internet access. So he asked me to spot him. I said, okay, well, what frequency? He goes, oh, I don't know yet. I'll get back to you, but I'm in a pileup. So I set it up, and I get it all going, and I'm waiting, and I'm going through and doing my things, and all of a sudden I hear park to park again. I go, I heard a park to park on that. Well, that was him. He goes, hey, Todd, I'm at frequency. I'm like, oh, all right, good way to get me.
Yeah, exactly.
So he was kind of like, that's how he got, because when you do quotas and you get a park to park, you want to get those, they're kind of more appealing than a regular contact. So but that's how he got me back. He just said park to park, and then it was him again. And I was like, oh, I thought I had another one, but it was good to get him spotted and him going. So it was kind of funny.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's actually a perfect example. Like, don't, as being the elder ham, don't try to take control back of the situation. Just, let it play out. Make it a joke if it, kind of feels too tense. Let some of the pressure out of the, the situation, so they don't feel like they're going to walk away and never want to, make a contact again. But, at the same time, make it interesting, because, they are going to, depending on what happens in the conditions, they may find that, all of a sudden they've got their own little pileup going on themselves, and, you can guide them through that and, calm them down, because my gosh, it's going to be crazy for them to be like, I don't understand. What call do I pick? And kind of like, well, what did you hear? You don't have to like respond immediately. You can take a second and breathe,
Well, when I was doing that night shift, I had you, Bill, I think Ryan, everyone's texting me, and I'm trying to do the pile up, and I'm looking at my phone. I get another text like, you're doing great. Keep going. But it was like I had a cheerleading squad, like, keep going. Your crew.
And we knew you had it under control.
Yeah. But I tell you, I think that activation was the thing that really just kicked me in and said, this is my thing, because that was, like I was just in another world, and I didn't even realize that the sun was gone, because I was just so focused on that radio and my iPad and logging and making these contacts. And it was one of my favorite experiences as a ham radio operator. It was a lot of fun.
Well, I would say the kind of the last caveat to that, especially on a field day side, is try not to give the new ham or the new person experiencing field day for the first time both logging and the mic. Give them one. Don't don't say, hey, here as well, and then walk away, or kind of sit back and say, haha, let the hell all break loose. Take some of the responsibility. That way, when you're hearing a call, you can say, oh, to them, when they're like, I didn't hear that call, you can say, oh, that was N1JUR. That's what I heard. And, have them repeat it back, and, kind of give them that. Boost.
And I talk through it. Like, so if I'm working and they're observing me, I tell them what I'm doing, and I'll stop and explain to them what's going on. So, and then I say, so you want to give it a shot? And they're like, no. And then I just hand them the mic. I go, well, you got to try it anyway.
Drop the mic.
Here we go.
I've done that to several people, yourself included. And, it was like, I remember even doing it to Zach too. It's like, Zach was like so nervous in the whole process. And once he got on, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's like the whole level just kind of just got back to normal. And he's like, oh, this is great. You made a couple more contacts after that. And, one day we'll make him into a ham.
Yeah. I think it's in him. I just think right now he's more into his baseball and his Fortnite and his friends, and that he could be bothered by talking to old men like us.
Well, once he gets his car, he'll have to have a radio in it. So, he'll
Yeah.
have to get his buddies to get a radio. The same thing we used to do when, we had CB
Right.
radio. So
Get all his friends to be technicians and clogging up our repeater.
yeah,
Who are all these kids?
we have to be the non-Kaji complaining,
Yeah.
get off our repeater. You're making it a mess. You're not IDing. And, just basically say, hey, guys, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, cool. Well, that it sounds like a good place to wrap up because I'm sure we could go into a ton of stuff. But like we alluded to, get out, try field day. If you've never been to a field day, this is the first you're hearing of it. Find a local club. ARL has a great club locator. I know our club is posted in it, but if you go up to arl.org / I think field day locator or something to that effect, you can find it up on their webpage. And we'll put it in the link in the description below so you can use that too as well. And find yourself, a local club. It doesn't have to be one you're joining. They are expecting new people to come by and stop by. Most clubs should be welcoming. If they aren't, let me know. I will personally come over there and kick their butts. Because they should be. This is our day to be able to kind of make ham radio shine. And if they're all grumpy, and they put themselves on the ARL locator page, I'm gonna have a few words with them myself. So, and a bunch of YouTubers will have, I'm sure, the same problems with them too as well. But all that being said.
And one last thing, it doesn't have to be a whole, you don't have to go there all day, all night, like we're talking about. Go for an hour. Stop by, see what you like. If it's, just hang out for a little bit. There's normally around lunchtime, it's probably food. There's different things going on, different stations. People teach you about the antennas, whatever. But just go there and have fun, and and take advantage of what you might be able to do, because it might jump you into the hobby. It might motivate you if you're a technician to get it motivated me to get my my general ticket, because once I saw
no
that
technician license at all, get your technician.
Yeah, it's just a start. So
yeah, and so we didn't allude to, and I forgot to mention at the very beginning, field day is always the 4th full weekend of June every year. It doesn't change. It's always been the 21st, 22nd. And so the way field day always starts is at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, at least for us. I can't remember what it is, UTC. You'll have to do the maths for me. But in essence, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it starts and then runs for a full 24 hours. And you can attend any, time during that period. And a lot of clubs will probably have some of that stuff posted, and it'll be available. So check your local areas in your local clubs for that stuff. And, go to the ones that, are obviously putting their, we'll say skin in the game and getting themselves out there, because those are probably going to be the ones that are going to be the best experiences. And the guys that, want to see new people showing up there and want to welcome you in the hobby. And, you can steer clear of some of the ones that might be more private or, more kind of, specific in, a contest nature or whatever, because there are a few, and everybody's welcome to play whatever they want in field day. As long as they just play by the field day rules. So cool. All right. Well, with that, let's kind of wrap things up here and put the bow on it. So as always, we like to say thanks again for joining for Live Free and Ham podcast community. Remember, if you haven't subscribed, we're always going to ask the question, what you've been doing. And, I am so slow on the thing here and I won't even bother. Anyway, so the idea is that, head over to our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe there, go over to our website at livefreeandham.com, subscribe there. So you catch all of our past podcast episodes. And like Todd mentioned, in terms of you got mic fright, we've got a great episode. I think it was episode 35 that we talked about, a couple of tips and tricks on how you can, overcome some of the mic fright. And that was very useful for me, and I'm sure for a few others out there. And as always, you can always connect with our show in a couple different ways. You can head to our shop online at livefreeandham.com/shop, pick up some merch. As we said in the past, if we ever catch you wearing it, or you send us pictures, we will definitely make sure we bring your attention to it in our next episodes, in our live streams. And so if you're an Apple Podcast user, you can always leave us a review on iTunes. And we also have that SMS link because we'd love to hear, from everybody. If you want to provide some feedback and you've gotten something from our show, or maybe you're a new ham and you found us on the internet and you want to just let us know how we're doing here. We'd love to hear from you, so you can always use that. And then, as always, we have our Patreon and Buy Us a Beer links, and those are all located on our show notes, the website, and in our YouTube channel. And if you want to reach out with any of our hosts, you can contact us directly on livefreeandham.com. And as always, thanks again for listening. And from all of us at Live Free and Ham, 7-3.
7-3, guys.